Hi guys, so I wanted to say a quick word about grades before I post the first essay grades for everyone. Um, One thing I always tell students is that English is a little bit different than math in that math only has one right answer, right? It's an objective class, one right answer. Sometimes there's two or three different ways that you can uh, go about finding that answer and getting the solution, but there's only one right answer. Your teacher can run the test through the Scantron. That's how they did it in the old days when I was young. Or now you can just take the quiz online. It calculates it for you. You know instantly what your grade is, okay? English is different in that it's subjective. So there are several wrong answers typically. There's guidelines, rules we have to follow, certain situations where, yes, you do need to capitalize this or capitalize that. You do need to put a comma here, etc. You might need to organize and structure things in a certain way according to expectations. But beyond that, the professor could post a topic or a prompt or a question, and every single person in the classroom can have a right answer, right? And can write potentially a good essay. There's an infinite number of right answers potentially, right? So it's a subjective grading process, and that means that if I was sitting in a room with five other professors, and I have before, typically many colleges, I've worked at several different colleges. At the end of the year, professors will get together and we'll take random samples from student essays, take the students' names off of those, but then we'll all kind of sit in a room and discuss appropriate grading for that particular, two or three samples from each instructor. We all talk and agree on roughly what the grade should be. And there's always some discussion about it. I might see an essay and I think it's a 72. Another professor might think it's a 69. Another professor might think it's a 74, right? There can be a little bit of a difference there. We would all agree, yeah, it's a borderline passing grade, 70-ish. We would all agree in that regard. Or sometimes we might not agree in that regard. Sometimes I might say, I think it's a 75. I think it's like, and someone might say, no, I don't think it passed. Like differences there in some cases. Okay, so there's a subjective nature to it. Uh, I share this because I think it's important for students to understand any professor's grading process, and also to feel that you have the right to ask questions about why you received a particular grade. I do feel that the instructor has an obligation to provide some notes to you, some marks of some sort to let you, or comments at least, to let you know here's why this grade was a 72. Notice A, B, C, and D. These are some things you did well, but here's some areas where we lost a few points. I feel like that is an obligation that any instructor who teaches English owes the student. Um, so when I was 22, I'm going to share a really quick story. I think it's important. Please hear me out. When I was 22, I was majoring in English. I knew I wanted to become a professor. I also wanted to become a professional writer. So I was really dedicated. I was working full time all day and then taking classes that started at 6 p.m. at night. And I had this one professor. He was a really famous writer, had published novels and things like that. And I'll never forget, he always showed up with like holes in his t-shirts and stuff, and didn't look very clean or tidy or anything. He was never at his office hours like he was supposed to be. He was always in a hurry out the door at the end of class. And I remember turning in my first essay to this guy and got it back. It was like 20 pages long. He just put the letter B at the top of it. There was not a mark on the entire paper. So I kind of wanted an A. I'd been getting all A's in my other classes. I knew this was a really famous guy. Maybe he's just really got high standards or whatever. I'm not going to complain, but I'm going to talk about it. What can I do next time, professor, so I can get a better grade? I want an A. He was always in a hurry out the door, didn't want to speak to me, didn't, had some kind of like him ha answer, 30 seconds. And I was kind of wondering if he even read it or not. Um, at any rate, the next paper came due. I tried and tried, wrote the letter B at the top. It's the only commentary I got. There was not a mark on any of the pages, never at his office hours. I would call, ask for appointments. I would email. He said, I don't do email. So seeing him at class was really the only opportunity I had. Um, that pattern continued. Needless to say, by the end of the quarter, my transcript said B for this professor. So I'm going to call him Professor B from here on out. I decided, well, okay, I did my best. I guess I just wasn't good enough for this guy. Um, I was getting A's in my other classes with my other professors, so I didn't sign up for him again. Okay, needless to say, Well, it got to the end of my studies. I was about to graduate with a master's degree. I'd been studying for 3 years, working, all of this stuff, working full time and then taking night classes and all this stuff, staying up all night some nights, like really working hard on all these long, long essay projects we had to do. Well, he was assigned to be the director of my final capstone thesis project, which is something you have to have in order to graduate with a master's degree. And I didn't want to because I already knew, oh dear. But you know what? Um, if he gave me a B on everything, hey, a B is a passing grade. Even if he gives me a B on my finals master's project, that's fine. I just want to graduate. And I really had no other choice. He was the only one that they had assigned me to. And when I asked, they said nobody else is available. So I was like, okay. I went and met with him starting in January, way in advance before graduation. And he didn't have time to meet with me. He had looked at 20 pages or so of my work and he said, this is wonderful. This is great. Good job. Just write another 100 pages or so of this. And I think it's going to be a really good work when it's done. And he actually wrote, for the first time, wrote a comment across the top of it. This was wonderful. Excellent. Just do another 100 pages or so of this type of material and come see me in May. I was like, wow, okay, great. He's happy with something that I've done. So this was January. It had to be 120 pages or more in length. I ended up just really, really working hard. Had about 130 something that I trimmed on my own down to like 124. And I tried starting in like March, April to meet with this guy. I'm done. I need you to read my stuff, so I can graduate. He was never available, never at his office hours, unreachable, yada, yada, yada. So I started meeting him out of class. Like I wasn't in his class, but I found out what his schedule was going to be when he had classes. I was waiting at the door. Professor, here's my stuff. I need to meet with you. He said, okay. He blew me off and now it's May. It's like a couple weeks to graduation. There's deadlines if I want to graduate. I call. I finally get a response back from him. He says, look, I just don't think I need to do some work on this. I don't think you're going to be ready to graduate by May. It might be August. I'm fine with that, professor. I just want to graduate. August is okay. I'll graduate in August. Well, the summer started wearing on and no word from the professor. I start calling like, hey, I really need to graduate so that I can start pursuing jobs, etc. I was just working for, lower wage at that time and wanted to, invested all this money into my studies, wanted more. He finally gets back to me and says he needs me to come and pick up my paper at his house. And just word to the wise, do not ever go to a professor's house for any reason. There's no reason for you to drop anything off at their house or to pick up anything from their house or to go to their house. They can meet you on campus. That's what they're being paid to do. So don't ever, for any reason, go to a professor's house. But I was young and dumb, okay? So I go to this guy's house to pick up my stuff, and he proceeds to tell me, like, this was horrible. I can't graduate you. This is not worthy of graduation. I said, what? So I was very polite. We had a lengthy discussion, but he basically, through the midst of the discussion, was refusing to approve for me to graduate. He basically told me my work was horrible and it wasn't worthy of master's or a master's degree so that I could become a professor. I was devastated, but I went home and noticed he had wrote only one comment on the entire 120 pages of material that I had submitted to him. And that comment was on page 23. And it said, this is the most horrible thing I've read in a long time. Same thing he had basically told me. What he didn't know, though, is that I had not changed anything in the first 23 pages because originally, when I had given him the first part of my work, first 23 pages or so, he'd said, this is great, this is wonderful. And he had written that on the top. So I had not changed a single period, a single comma, a single sentence. I had not changed anything in the first 23 pages of the material. I had just expanded it and made it longer, but the first 23 pages were the exact copy of what he had marked on before. So I took that. I realized I needed to go higher up. I wasn't going to get anywhere with this guy. I did report it to the chair of the English department in a respectful way and eventually the dean. And they were wonderful. They were wonderful as far as hearing me out, looking at the material, analyzing the situation, etc. And ultimately, they gave me the option of selecting another professor to oversee my work. And I selected a professor who was known as being one of the toughest in the department, but also one that we as students respected because we knew that if you got a 94 in his class, you earned it. Like he would read so meticulously. There would be marks on every single page of your 120-page paper. He would make some notes all the way throughout. And even if you did get a B or whatever, you at least felt like this guy is being thorough. He's given me a fair shake here. And he did put in some of his own time to look at my stuff. So that's who I selected to approve my final thesis. I didn't graduate on time, guys. I had to work another year because that professor, when he finally had the chance to see my work, he did have a lot of notes and comments, a lot of things he wanted me to work on, change, make different. And some of it, take this out. I want you to rewrite this whole section, another 40 pages worth of work. I'm going to need some time for that, etc. So I was late graduating and again, still working and still doing the best I could, had to pay for more time at the school because you have to be enrolled when you graduate. So it cost me more. Why am I telling this story? So guys, when I issue grades, I want you to know that I read your work and I take it very seriously when I post grades. I love to post A's and B's as much as possible. I don't always get to. I have to be fair of what work was done. Did the student meet the requirements? If I was sitting in a room of professors right now, what's a fair grade for this, right? Like I can't just say, oh, I like so-and-so, so 85 for her, when the truth is I know if I was sitting in a room with professors, it would be a 72, right? So fairness when I grade. And I also feel like it's important to give students the benefit of the doubt of two viewings from me. So maybe I'm having a bad day or something on a Tuesday. And when I go through, if you got graded on Tuesday, your grades were a couple points lower than the ones I graded on Thursday or something like that. Or maybe when I was going through this batch of 25, something was a little different, variance, right? So I try to go through all student essays briefly with very few comments. I just read through it. I read parts of it out loud. I make a few little quick comments and give it an estimate grade. And that's the first grade. And I usually aim low when I do so. So if I think it's probably a 78 or a 79, I'll post 75 for the first round grade. Like, all right, I'm pretty sure it's at least a 75. Maybe it's a couple points higher, but it's at least a 75. And that's what I post on Canvas. I will then, once I'm done with everybody, I'll go back and review the whole process. Maybe there was something that I didn't say or I didn't explain well. And so many students made a mistake on it, right? If I notice that half of my students made the same mistake, I look at it like I probably didn't cover that very well. So even if a third of the students didn't do that part right, I look at it like I probably didn't cover it very well. So I take all of that into consideration. I try within a week or a week and a half at the most, 10 days or so, to get a first grade posted. And remember, I am a little low. So if I think it's a 78 or 79, I'll post a 75. And then after I've done that for all students, I go back and I start really marking it up, reading super carefully, checking through my rubric category, which is the same as your peer review, where you've got the boxes that say idea development and word choice and all these things. Is that a 7 or is that an 8? And I decide. I make a careful decision. I might have awarded a 7 last time. Decide on the second reading that it's worth an 8. I also, sorry, my little girl's here, guys. If I decide the second time that I post a 7, but really it's a 6, I'll still give the student the benefit of the doubt. So let's say I read it the second time and it's actually more like a 74. I'll still award the benefit of the doubt and keep that 75 in place on Canvas. I give the student 2 reads. The first one is more brief and quicker, really just only 3 or 4 or 5 notes, like small notes, and then post the grade. And then the second read is extremely thorough with lots of comments, lots of corrections. It's a little bit overwhelming to some students once they see it the second time, like, wow, she found all those things that were wrong. It's like, no, this is going to help you improve it, especially for the scholarship essay too. If you're going to send it somewhere, I want it to be just beautiful by the time you're ready to send it. Okay. So lots of comments by the second time I grade. Out of the 2 scores, whichever one is the highest is the one I go with. So if the 75 the first time was a little lower, read it the second time and now it's a 78, you'll get the 78. If it's a 75 the first time and a 73, 72 the second time, you'll still keep that 75. Whichever of the 2 grades is higher is the one that you get to have on Canvas. So the good news about that is whatever grade you've got on the first round grade, it's not going to go any lower. You're at least guaranteed that 75. However, there's a chance that for some of you, in a couple weeks, that 75 actually just miraculously might go a couple points higher. And if so, you'll see why. I'll make some more detailed notes in the margins and explain, well, you actually earned a couple extra points here and here and here once I reviewed it. I suspect, by the way, that most of you are going to be way higher than a 75 on the scholarship essay. I suspect if you've been participating in the class, if you did those consultations with me, if you worked on it in stages, not just all in one shot the night before, stage by stage by stage, usually students make an 80 or above, a B or better. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of hope and encouragement as you go through my class, a little bit of background into my process when I'm grading. The last thing I do want to leave you with is always feel free to talk to me. I don't ever want to be like Professor B, who's like ducking out the door, avoiding students. Sometimes it might take a little bit before I get back to you, but if you have any question ever for any reason about a grade, reach out. Don't hesitate to reach out. If you don't hear back from me in 24 hours, reach out again. Okay. I'm happy to talk with students about grades. I'm also happy if you're the type of student who wants to discuss it a little more so that you can improve for next time. And not only for next time in my class, but perhaps in some of your other classes where there's essays. I'm happy to help you with that process. I want you to be successful during your time here at our school. Thanks for watching and good luck with those grades. Bye bye now.